Hey guys, what's up? It's Johnny here, and welcome to another episode of The SIC Show. I'm here with my main man, B. How are you, buddy?
And I'm super passionate today.
This week we interview Serge Ramelli all the way from Paris and find out why Serge is in Hollywood.
Yeah, and Serge inspires us with his signature series of Paris cityscapes. And also Serge shows us and he teaches us how to blend images like a master chef.
And don't forget his story about following his dream. It's such inspiration.
Oh, I'm so inspired by that.
So let's get into it.
Enjoy.
The SIC Show. Share, inspire, create.com. Share.
Okay, Serge, share something that not many people would know about you.
I have been from the age when something happened in my life when I was 25 years old. I'm 44 today, and I wanted to be an actor. I had this dream of being an actor. I did a bit of theater when I was a kid, and I loved it. I love speaking in front of audiences. I love making lectures. I love talking in front of cameras. I've always been very comfortable at it, and so, but time was flying by. I was a salesman, and I kind of dropped the idea because, I married a woman, a beautiful woman that had 3 boys, which I raised. I had a girl from my first marriage. We were 4 kids at home. By then, I was like 30, 35, and it was like being an actor at this age is completely unreal. You usually start in your youth and stuff like that. But then I did something that changed my life. I started this YouTube channel, sharing Lightrooms and Photoshop tips and tricks, and a lot of people from Hollywood actually is watching the show. I discovered like people from Lucasfilm, people from Disney, people from movie directors, which are in love for photography and are looking to. I had the art director from National Geographic contact me. And the show became bigger and bigger, and this movie director contacts me and says, "Listen, I'm doing a movie. It's called The Parisian. I'm looking for a Frenchman that speaks good English but is French. And the movie is being shot in LA. We're missing a bit of money. I see you're very popular on the web, so maybe you can even help us with a Kickstarter project to finance the movie. But I want to do some, I want to try you on camera, see if it can work out." So we decided to actually do a short together. He came to Paris in June last year, and we shot like a 9-minute romantic comedy short together. I was the lead of the short. He shot the whole thing, and we really liked the product. I mean, he liked it, and I got the part. So now
Wow.
I'm in Hollywood right now, and I'm trying to lose 15 pounds. I've been gaining pounds over the years, and he wants me to be. I was starting at 2. I was at 2 or 3 pounds, and he wants me to be 1. And so I was at 205, maybe 205, and I have to go to 180. So I'm doing this physical preparation, and we are, finishing the casting. We're launching the Kickstarter project after tomorrow. So if you guys can share it, that'd be nice.
For sure.
And that's something that. And what happened is doing the YouTube channel and so spending 187 episodes in front of camera got me also the confidence back as an actor, because many people wrote me like, "Oh, we love how you are at the camera." I'm like, "Oh, really? Yeah, I've always wanted to be an actor." And now this guy comes along and says, "I want to hire you as a lead of a movie." I mean, it's a $500,000 movie, but it's a really good script, and it's it's got 200 extras, it's got 57 locations, and 3 weeks in LA, 2 weeks in Paris. It is a major movie. It should cost millions of dollars. It doesn't cost much because it's basically being financed by favors. So that's probably something that people don't know about me.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's amazing.
So you're the lead actor and you're financing the film, or you're helping finance the film. So
Yeah.
basically, it's just like you're actually acting on YouTube again.
Yeah, using
You know,
my fame on YouTube, basically.
Yeah.
Do you know what I love about it is the fact you started your little YouTube show around your post-processing and your photography, something you're passionate about, and it's led to something bigger that you've always dreamed of. I love that transition. And so and that's a great tip for people out there. If you want to do something or start something, there is no better time. Like the tools are there. It's really cheap. You get yourself a laptop and you can create just about anything you want. It's such an inspiring story, actually.
Yeah,
Love it.
and that's, for me, YouTube is just a way, like an artist has things, like for example on YouTube, I do time lapse. I've put a few shorts that I've done as a director. Of course, all my photographic work, but it's just like before when you were making an artistic piece, you would have to find a way to exchange it with society. It was kind of hard. Now with YouTube, you can do it. And one tip I can give you about that, and you guys also are in that business, is it takes persistence. I remember speaking with Scott Kelby. He says, if you want to get a blog out, you need to make at least 3 interesting articles per week. And I would say if you need a YouTube channel, it's at least once a week, like 4 videos per month, And it took me 6 months before it picked up. But when it picked up crazy, Started getting subscribers, but it took like 30, 40 episodes before it really took off, So.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome, Serge.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for sharing that with us,
That's
man.
awesome.
That's awesome. Good.
Inspire.
All right, Serge, inspire us with one of your amazing images.
Okay, well, the story behind this photo is I was with Scott Kelby in Paris, and we were talking about the Eiffel Tower, and he says, Serge, we need to find a way to shoot this thing that has been shot 1 billion times, like no one ever shot it, like something new to it. And I got this idea of making a panorama out of it, meaning getting really close to one of the feet and taking 3 images and stitching them. And so you have the feet that's very big, and it makes like a weird flow thing, but I think it works pretty well, and it's a 3-image panel. And I find that it's a kind of an unusual way to shoot the Eiffel Tower. Plus, I had a great sky, made the whole thing very dramatic, dodge and burn, black and white. But yeah, so the whole idea was to shoot the Eiffel Tower in a different way than it's usually been seen, but still make it something aesthetic. So that's what I try to do. And often I do like unusual panels because I find panorama will give you a sensation or views you're not expecting.
Yeah, I love that image, Serge. And you're right. I mean, you've got to be really creative to go to a place that's been photographed, a couple million times, and actually find a different angle to shoot it like that.
I was just done before. I mean, that's working on with Scott. It was like we're standing by one of the feet. I'm like, what about if we, do a panel? We start off by the feet and start going out and sort of cruise. And that really worked out well.
I love it. The leading lines going from the left up right to the top of the Eiffel Tower on the top right. I mean, that's crazy. And also like you said, the dramatic sky, the clouds in the back. Then why did you make it black and white, Serge?
Because otherwise it was like black and blue. The sky was just a regular nice blue sky, 4 o'clock sky. So there was no the colors. I have this rule. If the colors are not amazing, I go black and white. And
that's a good tip.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I stay in colors unless the colors are really interesting. If they're not, I just go black and white. I don't even think about it. That's why it's black and white. I actually made for my home. I'm about to print a big fine art print of that, and I added a bit of sepia in the highlights and blue in the darks. A little effect. I did just a little bit. And I made like 3 fine art prints, so cut in 3, and they will be all next to each other. You have like, sort of like an effect of 3 photos, but it's just one subject.
Yeah, it's lovely. I just love how you've taken something that's been photographed so much, just like Brent said, and just such a unique view. I've never seen a picture like that of the Eiffel Tower, never. So it's it's a real skill to find something, creative out of something that's been shot so many times. And have you got any tips for our viewers about us seeing something different? What am I trying to say about taking an object and shooting it differently? Because it is a real creative skill. You can learn all the basics of photography and you can get the shot everyone's taken, but I think it's like next level when you can take that creativity and produce something amazing out of something that's been shot so many times. Have you got any tips for our viewers?
Tips, yes. I find one of the biggest mistakes I think people make in doing urban landscape and landscape in general is usually they have amazing sky, usually they have an amazing subject, but usually the point that's missing a little bit is the foreground element. And what I mean by that is, like on this one, you have a sort of road going up. So the road, I would say that the middle ground would be the buildings at the end with the church, and the sky would be the background. But for me, the foreground is that road leaning up. There is no cars, there is nothing, and I love that photo for that because it's, good foreground, good middle ground, good background, nice leading line into an interesting light. I did a sort of a very contrasty, decelerated look to it, which I really like. And so tip number 1, watch for your foregrounds. Carefully study the foregrounds. I find I look a lot of other people that I teach photography to, and what I see their trouble is most of the time is the foreground.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful image. I love the processing. And one thing I do love about your processing too, Serge, is, and I've seen you do it many times on YouTube, is adding that dapples of light all over the place to add interest. You know, it's an amazing effect, and it adds so much interest. You can see on the building on the left, and on the trees on the right, and it's great.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that for a second. One day I was watching a show with Joe McNally and Scott Kelby, and Joe McNally said something that changed my life. And literally, he said, an object is only interesting when it's partially LED. And I'm like, an object is only interesting when it's partially LED. And I realized, you know, when you look at a wall, like let's look at on this photo on the wall on the left and on the plants on the right. Originally, they were evenly LED, meaning the light and the gradients of light that you have is the same on every one of them. Now, I dodged a little bit of white on the left and on the right, just a little bit. The only purpose of doing that is to break the boring light and make it an interesting light, because now it becomes a partially LED object. It's not fully LED, and now it becomes interesting. And so sometimes you have it naturally, you know, when you have clouds or just like, you know, or a leaf getting just a sunspots here and there. And sometimes you have to make it. I think that some of my photos are heavily retouched. Some are not at all retouched. This one is heavily retouched. There's actually 2 cars there that I took out and did the dot. But I don't care. You see, all that matters to me is the final product. Like, if I'm going to show you another photo where there's like literally no retouching at all, which is I still think is nice, is the one that's very red, where you have on the right the lights, the car lights. Yeah. It actually is. That's the black version of that is the cover of my book coming out with 10 Outs, a publisher of fine art photography. This photo was retouching time 8 seconds, like literally opening up the highlights, bring the shadows, bring on the highlights, contrast, white and black. That's it. No dodge and burn, nothing. A little gradient filter on top, and it was a long exposure, and like literally 8 seconds of retouching, because. The light was so amazing by itself. You know, the cars on the right made it. The long exposure made the Seine River silky. The stretchy clouds. The F-13 made the city lights, you know, with little starlights. Yeah. And so there was nothing to it. So sometime heavy retouching, sometime no retouching. And it is true that now that I've been doing it for 10 years, my game is to go for no retouching or very little retouching. I'm trying to get it right in camera, but not because I think it's the way to go and do things. It's just that's the way I challenge myself. Because now I have time. I can come by 10 times, you know, on the right spot and get the right light. But there's nothing wrong with taking a very bad photo and changing the sky and making dodge and burn and making it amazing. You know, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is, you know, what are people going to respond to your art? You know, whether it's heavily retouched or not. You know, we are just digital artists and using tools.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I couldn't agree more. In the end, it's the photographer's art, and if you want to go ahead and composite and change things, that's I love it. It's the final product that counts. You know, it's like if you're happy with whatever it takes, you know, whether you do it in camera or in post-production, totally agree. It's up to the artist.
Yeah, and the other day we were chatting, Serge, and we're saying, you know, it's you shoot for yourself, really, in the end. It's what you like that really matters. It's not what other people like, and some people do shoot for what other people say, you know, on social media, like, wow, that's great. But in the end, what's going to keep you shooting and keep you inspired is if you shoot for yourself and you love it, and then you put it out there and see what other people think. Yeah,
I mean, it's different if you, it's funny because I heard this story, but I found out it was not true. Someone once told me that, like, if you work for National Geographic, you have to give them the raw files, so they want to make sure the post-processing didn't change so much the photo. And actually, 2 months ago, I was contacted by National Geographic to sell them a photo of Corsica that I took, which was just a panorama. There was very little retouching, just a little bit of dodge and burn. They didn't ask me for the raw file, and it meant like the middle of the National Geographic magazine. So I guess it changed on that. What I mean is the end phenomenon. It's true, like for the last year, most of my work is less retouched, but you know, it doesn't mean like right now I'm redoing an HDR course, for example. So it's a lot of heavy retouching, and it really is like, how is people going to respond? But there's something like funny about the retouching is when I show my photo to anybody, the first thing they said, oh, it's Photoshopped. Like whether it's a retouched photo or not, it's Photoshopped. It's the first thing that, oh, it's beautiful, but it's Photoshopped. Whether it's something that has been heavily retouched or whether it's because it's not been heavily retouched. The truth is, people are used to take photos with starting beginning cameras which don't have nice dynamic range and they don't know how to use it well. So when they shoot an amazing sunset, it doesn't look like the sunset they were watching. Over the years, I've learned with digital blending, shooting maybe for the sky and like 2 photos, one for the sky, one for the building, or just doing a right exposure, getting everything right in the camera. But I'm using, Sony A7R, Canon 5D Mark III, expensive cameras that the general public doesn't have. So it looks Photoshop, but it's just a camera that got the dynamic range. And I know I'd never shoot JPEG. I know how to use the RAW file to get out the best, expose for the highlights, all these tricks, this trick that's just going to make the photo wow. So it's not Photoshop most of the time. Well, it is. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, as long as people, get inspired by it, I'm happy.
Yes, and we are inspired by those images.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Serge. Thanks for inspiring us, man.
Awesome, bro.
Create.
All right, Serge, teach us something that you use to create with.
Okay, digital blending. I would say that's the one trick I use the most today. Let's see, like, I'm in Paris. There's an amazing sunset or sunrise. The sun is in the camera, and I really want to get all the details of the sky. What I would do is I would put my camera on an HDR mode, bracketing +2, -2, 0. I would put it on a timer, so I press once. It's going to take 3 photos by hand, even, because when the sun is there, you don't need a tripod. You are like, your middle photo needs to be at least at 1/250th of a second. So your underexposure is going to be like, 1/500th of a second, and your overexposure is going to be like 1/80th of a second. But 1/80th of a second, it's still above 1/50th of a second, which is usually what a human being can hold a camera still. And if you put your timer on, it's going to take the 3 photos. So now you've got all the 3 photos. You only open in Photoshop the normal exposure and the underexposure, usually. Usually I only do is 2. You have to see, it depends how you took them. But one where you can see clearly the buildings, and the other one where you see clearly the sky. Okay? You align them because you write by hand, so you use the auto align option in Photoshop to align them both, because you will have moved between the 2 photos, very slightly, even so you were on a timer and it took the photos like, it moved a little bit. So you align them first, and then using layers, you create a mask and you bring back with a 30% brush, slowly but surely, some of the sky details from the underexposed photo, which is on top of your layers, and this way you get best of both worlds, And so what I usually do first is I go into Lightroom and I retouch the photo for the buildings, just looking at the buildings and making them amazing. Then I retouch the one with the sky that's cool, that's properly exposed, retouch the sky amazing, and that's when I do my digital blending. I mean, I would need to do like I actually have done free tutorials on that. You just type Serge Ramelli digital blending on YouTube, you'll find 6 examples of that. And that's something that, even so, I'm using the Sony A7R, which is amazing in terms of dynamic range, like 14 f-stop, I think, or it's crazy. Much better, yeah. I still sometimes, I always, by security, shoot one for the sky, one for the buildings. And sometimes it's tricky, yes, with the brush, because the building goes like this, to not make hollows and things like this. But you will find that 80% of the time with a 20 or 30% brush, you can just bring it back slowly but surely some of that underexposed sky and get all the details of the sun, so you don't have just like a white blown out part where the sun is. And so that's probably the most powerful thing I use Photoshop for today. That is 80% of my Photoshop is just what I just explained to you. Like if, on a regular thing, So of course you've got then luminosity mask where you can do a better job, or you can use photomatics if you just. The other thing that I would do is I would use photomatics. If you're lazy, you can just use photomatics and make all 3 photos, but you're gonna get that photomatics look. So then you need to take the photomatics result and blend it in with the normal exposure. So blending exposure, we're using layers and mask, is really for me the way it's still to go. Probably in a year or 2, when the dynamic range goes to 18 f-stops, 20 f-stop, we won't need to do that at all.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's actually totally my workflow. I'm in Lightroom 80% of the time, I would say, and then I just go to Photoshop for moving pixels, and blending. That's it. Yeah. So yeah, that's great. So it's like, I know you've got so many great tutorials on this, and tell us about one that you have that that the viewers might be interested in if they want to dive deeper into this technique.
Of course. Photoshop for photographer. The whole idea of Photoshop for photographer is for people that have never used Photoshop, or that have never really retouched photo. You can do so many things with Photoshop. So this one is really about being a photographer. It's what's called Photoshop for photographer, and it starts off by basically explaining the whole camera raw engine, because that's my workflow. Let's say you don't use Lightroom, you will only use Photoshop. Then you just you do your retouching as much as you can in Camera Raw, because a raw file will give you its best. That's got all the hidden information that you can get the best out of in Camera Raw. But there is a limit. So I have like I'm explaining every 5 examples of Camera Raw, and then we jump into digital blending, which is what I just talked about. Yeah. And so different digital blending, and then I do sky replacement. Different example of sky replacement. I went down to Israel, shot the western walls, or shot the Dallas gate, which is an amazing gate around Jerusalem. And there's like no clouds. I got up at 5 in the morning, traveled 10,000 miles, spent $1,000, and there's not one cloud. I'm like, oh my God. Well, I really installed the photo to the gallery. It's like, I hate to do it, but I have a couple of good sky replacement tutorials, with different like night, blah, blah, blah. Then I go into HDR, how to use the HDR engine for the, HDR look, if you like into that. Then black and white, a lot of black and white example, how you can do great fun on black and white in Photoshop. Then I get into panoramas, how to teach them, how to correct your panoramas, make them clean. And we finish with composited work, like, shooting again in the studio, shooting the background, shooting the sky, and mixing all 3. So that's all Photoshop for photographer. 5 hours, very entertaining, very fun, and very fresh.
It's got to be entertaining.
Yeah, and I
love that.
I love your passion, Serge. I love it.
It's my best seller.
And it's contagious. Oh, that sounds awesome, man.
Awesome, and we'll have a link to that course in the show notes, guys. So,
yeah, for sure. Check it out, guys, because it's Serge is a wicked trainer. I love it.
That's awesome.
I look forward to your YouTube videos every week because it gives me a bit of a laugh as well. Yeah, so it's great.
Totally. So how many videos are you putting out a week now, Serge?
I try to do 2 a week. It's not all the time, but now I'm like almost 190 episodes, 210,000 subscribers. So I'm really happy with that. And it's probably 1 a week, but for a while I've been doing 2 a week. But I travel a lot. I just came back from Florida, New York, Mexico. I'm going to Paris in 3 days. So I'm traveling all the time, so it's hard to keep up with 2 a week, but 1 a week minimum.
Yeah. Well, now that you're in the running for the Oscar Awards as an actor, I think you might have less time to make a YouTube video.
No, I mean, even when I'm going to shoot the movie, I'm going to talk about the movie or whatever is going on. I like to use that channel as a media of me communicating of like my journey as an artist. And because I wasted 10 years of my life doing a work I did not like. And I was convinced that you could not make a good living as an artist. And I find that this is not true. And I was into a really big economical problem because having 4 kids, big house, 2 cars, a dog, 2 motorbike. And so you have a lot of money to make every month to keep all this afloat. And so it's hard to change into, I'm going to be an artist, But I progressively made the change, and now I'm working, for galleries, fine art prints, and selling my tutorials. And between the 3, I'm making a much better income than I was as a salesman or whatever I was doing before. A lot better. Like I was struggling with money, and now for the first time in my life, I'm cool with money just through art. And I'm not saying this to show off. I'm saying this because it can be done. All it takes is to follow your passion. One thing that was a revelation for me, Steve Jobs said something in this video. He says, find something that you love and you will be good at it. And I was not a bad salesman. I'm a pretty good salesman, but I didn't really like it. I love photography. I love making images. I love making movies. I love talking in front of the camera. And that's probably why I'm good at it.
Yeah, that's such great advice.
I know, and I think we've followed it too, Johnny and I. And I did it 10 or 12 years ago when I was doing engineering, and I I was good at it, but it wasn't my passion, and my passion was photography. It is photography, and now it's more creating art than photography, and I just followed it, man. I didn't know how I was going to make money, but after a few months I did.
And it's funny, I'm sort of the same way, Serge. I started working for national parks as what they call a field officer, so I'm in the field digging holes and driving tractors and building fences, but of course my passion was photography, and I talked about it enough, and here we are 10 years later, I'm a permanent photographer, videographer, with national parks, and I love the environment and the outdoors, so it's a perfect situation for me. You just put it out there, and obviously with everything else we're doing with the SIC show and the lounge, and I love it. I just can't get enough.
And that's great advice. And I tell anyone that asks me how do I make money out of photography, and I say just do it. Just get in.
Get out there,
and it'll come.
It'll come.
Yeah.
Like I started by making money as an interior design photographer. That was my first income, and then tutorials started picking up, and then fine art photography started picking up, and on books, and so it's just piling on different income sources. But you're just out there using the web as a media, to show you art, and if you're passionate, and it will pick up. There's the only time it doesn't work when it hasn't been tried. It's like somebody who's gonna give it a shot and doesn't. It takes persistence. It was rough for a couple of years, I must say, but it's worth the risk.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome, man. Thanks for being on the show. It's been wicked having you here, mate. It's such
Thank you so much, Serge. And when you are a big movie star, we hope that we can get you back on the show.
Yeah, good.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Take care.
No problem. You guys.
Oh man, how was that interview with Serge? Such inspiring.
He is inspiring.
Such inspiration. I just love the fact he just took what he believed in and what he was passionate about, his photography, created this YouTube channel, and now it's led to this thing of being an actor that he's always wanted to do since he was young. Like it just shows, man. You just put yourself out there. Take whatever you want. It's there for your grabbing. You just got to put yourself out there and have a go. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes. So he followed his dream, and now he's getting it.
I know.
I mean, it takes a couple of years, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and just be persistent, because we're on a long journey in our life. If you're persistent at something and you talk about it enough, you'll get it.
And if you're passionate enough about what to do.
Passionate.
And that's what I love about Serge, man. He's so passionate. Have you seen his videos?
Oh man, actually, his YouTube videos are really entertaining. Even though they teach, they are really entertaining. So guys, check out Serge's stuff. He's got some amazing work that's truly inspiring, and his courses are great. I've actually purchased a couple and taken them a few years back, and I love what he does. It's just amazing. He's got so much great content there. And the Photoshop for photographers, if you're a Photoshop user, it's an amazing course. Yeah,
or if you've never used Photoshop and you're ready to jump in, go check out his course.
Yeah,
and great. Those images, I love that panorama of the Eiffel Tower. Different angle.
Yeah,
something that's been shot a million times. I know we said it a million times on the show, but it's just I never thought about that.
It's such a great way to view the Eiffel Tower. From the amazing stonework on the leg up to the top. It's just. I think, and the really good tip from that for me is, think out of the box. Yeah. Try something a little bit different. And, you might just create something that's totally amazing.
I wonder how long he walked around the bottom.
I don't know.
Scott.
With Scott,
Colby, and had a look at a different way of shooting it.
I know.
Maybe, sometimes for us, like when I go shoot a landscape or a cityscape like that, I'll do a lot of walking around and viewing things from different angles. Some people might think I'm a bit of a freak because I'm actually going like this. Having a look to see what I can fit in, what kind of composition I get. But I guess it's a composition. You want to get a different, unique, creative composition before you even pull out your camera.
Yeah, to be honest, and I've said this before on the show, but I won't even put my tripod down until I've found my composition. I'll walk around in my landscape and you'll see me. I'll be up, I'll be down, I'll be over there and back here and over there. And, getting there before the good light, and a good hour before to find that composition, it really makes all the difference.
And sometimes I even send him off to get a coffee. So he's out there too, getting a coffee and coming back.
Gotta have your coffee.
Yeah.
It's all about the coffee.
Yeah, and I love the way Serge also taught us how to blend images, shooting properly exposed and then underexposed for the sky, and blending the two in Photoshop. That was a great tip.
And actually, that's what I mostly use Photoshop for now.
Yeah.
It's just blending my images. And if I've really got to move some pixels, like take a branch out or something big, I'll do that in Photoshop too. But awesome, man.
Awesome, and we love having him on the show. And when he becomes a Hollywood celebrity,
we'll get him back.
Yeah, we'll try.
We're gonna sign SIC mug.
Yeah,
SIC mug. They're on their way.
Yeah,
they're coming.
Yeah.
SIC mug.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we've got to get some.
Guys.
All right, guys, it's been another epic show. We hope you enjoyed it. And as always, leave us some feedback in the comments and go to iTunes and rate the show. Even if you don't subscribe in the podcast and you've got iTunes on your computer, find the show in the store and leave us a rating and a comment. It helps us a lot. And don't forget to share the passion. So share the show on Facebook and social media, and that really makes a big difference.
Definitely. And there's a lot more passion happening in the lounge. So jump into the SIC lounge. We're in there every day.
Yep.
There's
Answering
passionate
questions.
photographers in there. So jump in.
Loving the lounge.
We'll see you in the lounge.
Take care.
See you next week. Bye.
To find out more, go to shareinspirecreate.com.